The painful truth is this: silence does not guarantee she will return, but silence with self respect guarantees you will stop begging for someone who walked away. And that is the part most men do not want to hear when their heart is still attached. They want a promise, they want certainty, they want someone to say, stay silent long enough and she will come back begging. They want to believe every unanswered message is building attraction. They want to believe every day they do not text her is making her regret it more. They want to believe silence is a secret weapon that will force her to feel the loss. But a grown man cannot build his life on fake guarantees. A grown man builds his life on control because when she leaves, when she goes cold, when she stops replying the way she used to, when she acts like the connection that once meant everything suddenly means nothing, something inside you panics. You want to reach out. You want to ask what happened. You want to explain your side. You want to remind her how good it was. You want to ask if she misses you. You want to send one last message that somehow opens her heart again. But be honest. Most of the time, you do not want to text her because it is the right move. You want to text her because the silence is hurting you. You want relief. You want a reply. You want one sign that you still matter. You want her name to appear on your phone so your chest can finally stop feeling heavy. That is where most men lose themselves, not because they care. Caring is not weakness. They lose themselves because they let pain lead their behavior. And when pain leads a man, he does things that destroy his self respect. He checks her stories. He waits for her reply. He asks mutual friends about her. He sends long emotional paragraphs. He apologizes again and again. Even when he does not know what he is apologizing for, he posts things to make her react. He compares himself to other men. He looks for proof that she misses him, then looks for proof that she moved on, and both destroy his peace. That is not love. That is emotional dependence. And an emotional dependence does not bring respect back, it destroys it. A man does not regain power by chasing. He regains power by staying calm when everything inside him wants to react. He regains power by stepping back when fear tells him to move closer. He regains power by controlling his emotions, rebuilding his life, and letting his actions speak louder than his anxiety. The goal is not to manipulate her into returning. The goal is not to make her beg. The goal is not to turn your pain into a game. The goal is to become a man who no longer loses himself when someone walks away, because if she returns and you are still the same desperate man underneath, her return will not save you. It will expose you. If she sends one message and you forget every boundary, you did not heal. You were just waiting. If she says, I miss you, and you instantly hand her full access again, you did not grow. You were starving. If she comes back and you throw away your routine, your peace, your standards, and your self respect, then silence did not make you strong. It only made you quiet. And there is a difference between being quiet and being powerful. A quiet man can still be needy. A quiet man can still be obsessed. A quiet man can still be checking. A quiet man can still be waiting. A quiet man can still be emotionally on his knees. A powerful man is different. He may miss her, but he does not chase. He may care, but he does not beg. He may remember the good times, but he does not ignore the pattern. He may feel pain, but he does not let pain drive his decisions. That is the man she does not expect after silence. She expects the old version who would text first, the old version who would break after a few silent nights, the old version who would say, I just want closure, when what he really wanted was another chance. The old version who would watch every story and pretend it was nothing, the old version who would see her online and feel his stomach drop, the old version who would accept crumbs because crumbs felt better than nothing. But when you do not become that man, the whole pattern changes. She may return, she may not. She may miss you, she may move on, she may regret it, she may stay silent. But either way, the old version of you starts dying. And that is the real victory, because getting her back is not the highest goal. Getting yourself back is. Now, understand what silence actually does. Silence creates space. That is all. It does not force love, it does not guarantee regret. It does not magically repair trust. It does not make every woman come running back. Silence simply removes your pressure from the situation and gives reality room to speak. If she truly values you, space may make her feel the loss. If she only valued your attention, space may reveal that too. If she wanted distance, silence lets her experience distance. If she wanted life without you, silence gives her the truth of that choice. If she was only used to you chasing, Silence breaks the old expectation. But none of that matters if your whole life is still built around whether she feels it. Because if you are silent just to make her react, she still controls you. If you are silent just to make her jealous, she still controls you. If you are silent while checking every sign, she still controls you. If you are silent while counting the days until she breaks, she still controls you. That is not freedom. That is emotional waiting. And emotional waiting is still chasing. You are not texting her, but your mind is still sitting outside her door. You are not calling her, but your attention is still in her life. You are not sending paragraphs, but your nervous system is still asking, does she miss me yet? That is why silence alone is not enough. Silence must become self respect. Self respect says, I am not contacting you because I am no longer available for confusion. Self respect says, I am not checking your stories because I refuse to feed my own wound. Self respect says, I am not asking about you because my peace matters. Self respect says, I am not posting for your reaction because my life is not a performance. Self respect says, I am rebuilding whether you return or not. That is different energy. That is the kind of silence that changes a man. Most men make the same mistake after she pulls away. They try to keep the connection alive alone. She becomes distant and he becomes more emotional. She replies less and he writes more. She goes cold and he becomes warmer. She gives uncertainty and he gives loyalty. She gives crumbs and he treats them like a meal. He thinks, if I show her how much I care, she will remember. But care without self respect becomes pressure. Love without boundaries becomes weakness. Effort without mutual effort becomes desperation. And a woman can feel when your effort is no longer coming from strength. She can feel when it is coming from fear. She can feel when the message is not really about connection, but about your anxiety trying to breathe again. That pressure does not create attraction, it creates distance. Even if she still cares, pressure makes her pull back. And if she already lost respect, begging confirms what she suspected. So you stop, not because you hate her, not because you want revenge, not because you want to punish her. You stop because you finally understand that chasing someone who is not choosing you clearly is how a man loses himself. If she wants space, let space exist. If she wants distance, let distance exist. If she chooses silence, stop filling that silence with your anxiety. If she treats you like an option, stop giving her priority access. If she wants life without your presence, step back enough for her to experience it. That is not cruelty, that is reality. And reality teaches what your paragraphs could not. Every time you chase after she pulls away, you interrupt reality. Every time you send one more message after she ignores you, you interrupt reality. Every time you check in just to keep the door warm, you interrupt reality. Every time you act like nothing happened because you are afraid to lose her, you interrupt reality. Then you wonder why she never feels your absence, because you never fully became absent. You kept showing up emotionally, you kept watching, you kept reacting, you kept leaving your attention in her life while pretending you had walked away. That is not silence, that is hidden chasing. And hidden chasing keeps you weak. If you are not texting her, but you are checking her stories, you are still chasing. If you are not calling her, but you are asking mutual friends, you are still chasing. If you are silent, but every post is meant for her reaction, you are still chasing. If you are counting the days until she breaks, you are still chasing. Real silence is not just the absence of words, it is the return of your attention. Your attention is your power. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. If your attention is on her, your energy feeds the wound. If your attention is on your body, your work, your money, your sleep, your discipline, your faith, your future, your energy builds power. Take it back. Your body needs you, your work needs you, your money needs you, your sleep needs you, your discipline needs you, your future needs you. Stop giving your strongest energy to someone who is giving you uncertainty. That is not hate. That is self respect. Now, maybe she will return after silence. Maybe she will not. But the stronger question is this: who are you becoming during the silence? Are you becoming bitter? Are you becoming obsessed? Are you becoming jealous? Are you becoming a man who watches her life more than he builds his own? Or are you becoming disciplined? Are you becoming calm? Are you becoming focused? Are you becoming stronger? Are you becoming a man whose peace no longer depends on one woman's mood? That is the real test, because silence reveals you. It reveals how much control you actually have. It reveals how much of your confidence depended on her attention. It reveals how often you wanted to check, not because it helped, but because pain became familiar. It reveals how easily you almost abandoned your standards just to feel close again. That awareness hurts, but it is necessary. A man cannot change a pattern he refuses to see. Maybe you were not only missing her, maybe you were missing the feeling of being chosen. Maybe you were not only hurt by her silence, maybe you were hurt because her silence exposed how little peace you had inside yourself. Maybe you were not only chasing love, maybe you were chasing relief. And once you see that, you stop making her responsible for healing something you need to rebuild within yourself. That is maturity. A weak man says, "Come back so I can feel okay." A stronger man says, "I am going to become okay, even if you do not come back." That is the difference. Now, let us talk about the late night moment because this is where most men break. During the day, you may feel strong. You work, you train, you stay busy, you tell yourself you are done. But at night, the room gets quiet. Your phone is close. The the memories come back. You remember her voice. You remember the way she used to look at you. You remember the messages she used to send. You remember the version of her that made you feel chosen. Then the cold memories come back too. The distance, the late replies, the silence, the way she stopped trying, the way you felt yourself shrinking just to keep the connection alive. And suddenly your mind starts negotiating. Maybe I should text. Maybe she is waiting. Maybe she thinks I do not care. Maybe this is my last chance. Maybe I should just send something small. But be honest, most of the time you do not want a message because it is wise. You want a message because you want the pain to stop. That is not the same thing. A message sent from panic does not usually bring peace. It gives you a short hit of relief, then creates a new prison. Now you are waiting again. Now you are checking again. Now her reply or lack of reply controls your mood again. Do not trade your dignity for a few minutes of relief. A strong man tells himself the truth before he acts. He says, "I want to do this because I feel anxious." Then he leads himself. He puts the phone down. He walks. He trains. He writes what he feels in notes, but does not send it. He prays if faith is part of his life. He sleeps. He lets the emotional wave rise and fall without obeying it. Pain can be felt without being followed. That line matters. Pain can be felt without being followed. You can miss her and still not text. You can care and still not chase. You can feel rejected and still not beg. You can want answers and still not reopen the wound. That is control, and control is what makes your silence real, not control over yourself, because most men want to control the wrong thing. They want to control whether she returns, control whether she misses them, control whether she regrets it, control whether she compares, control whether she watches their story, control whether she feels the loss. But the only control that matters is self control. Can you control your hand when it wants to text? Can you control your eyes when they want to check? Can you control your mouth when it wants to beg? Can you control your mind when it creates painful stories? Can you control your routine when your emotions are loud? That is the battlefield win in there first. Now, here is your 7 day reset. For 7 days, do not message her first from panic. Do not check her stories. Do not ask mutual friends about her. Do not post to get her attention. Do not make emotional decisions at night. Do not reread old messages until your chest hurts. Do not send a soft message when what you really want is reassurance. Put that energy into training, work, money, sleep, discipline, faith, emotional control, and rebuilding your identity. Train your body even when your mind is heavy. Clean your room even when your emotions feel messy. Fix your sleep because tired men make weak decisions. Eat properly because heartbreak drains your focus. Walk when the urge to check hits. Brought what you want to say, but do not send it from panic. Put your phone away before midnight. Build your day before your emotions build it for you. This is not about pretending you do not care. It is about proving that her silence does not own you. Every time you do not chase, you rebuild self trust. Every time you do not check, you rebuild control. Every time you do not ask about her, you rebuild dignity. Every time you keep your routine while hurting, you become stronger. Confidence is built by keeping promises to yourself. You said you would not beg. Do not beg. You said you would not chase. Do not chase. You said you would not abandon your standards. Do not abandon them. That is how a man becomes solid. And a solid man is not easily pulled back into chaos. Now, what happens when a man becomes solid? He stops reacting to every emotional wave. He stops needing constant reassurance. He stops making one woman's attention the center of his self worth. He stops treating rejection like a death sentence. He stops performing strength and starts living it. His voice changes, his decisions change, his energy changes, his boundaries change, his patience changes. His entire life becomes less available to confusion. That is what makes the old version of the relationship impossible. Because if she comes back, she is not meeting the same man. She is meeting a man who has standards now, a man who can listen without collapsing, a man who can care without chasing, a man who can forgive without rushing trust, a man who can say, I care, but I am not going back into confusion. That is the man you want to become, not the man who makes her beg, the man who does not need begging to feel powerful. There is a big difference. A weak man wants her to beg because his ego is bleeding. A strong man wants peace because his self respect is awake. A weak man wants her to suffer so he can feel valuable. A strong man wants to stop suffering by abandoning himself. A weak man says, I hope she regrets losing me. A strong man says, I hope I never lose myself like that again. That is higher, and higher is harder because revenge feels good for a moment, fantasy feels good for a moment, imagining her crying and begging feels good for a moment, but when the fantasy ends, you are still alone with yourself. You still have to train, you still have to work. You still have to sleep, you still have to rebuild, you still have to become a man you respect. So stop living in the fantasy of her return and start living in the reality of your recovery. That is where your power is. Now, if she reaches out again, you must be careful because many men survive the silence but fail when she returns. They tell themselves they are strong, they tell themselves they have changed. Then her name appears on the phone, and the old man wakes up instantly. He replies too fast. He writes too much. He asks if she missed him. He tries to force clarity. He pours months of pain into one conversation. He acts like he has been waiting by the phone the whole time. And she feels it. She feels the hunger. She feels the pressure. She feels that his silence was not growth, it was waiting. Do not be that man. A small message is not a full return. A hey is not accountability. And I miss you is not change behavior. A late night text is not emotional maturity. A story view is not love. A woman touching the door is not the same as a woman walking through it with clarity. If she says, hey, you can say, hey, hope you're doing well. That is enough. If she says, I miss you. You can say, I hear you. What made you reach out? If she says, I've been thinking about us, you can say, I understand. What do you want to do with that? If she says, can we talk? You can say, we can talk, but I am not rushing back into anything. These are not games. They are calm boundaries. They show openness without desperation. They invite clarity without begging. They protect your peace without attacking her. A real return can handle patience. A fake return usually cannot. If she genuinely wants to reconnect, she will respect your pace. If she only wants emotional access, she may disappear when she realizes you are not easy anymore. Let that happen. You need truth more than temporary comfort. Because temporary comfort can pull you back into the same cycle that broke you. Truth sets you free. Now, what if she actually comes back crying, apologizing, saying she made a mistake? Stay calm. Do not punish her. Do not act superior. Do not say, I knew you would come back. Do not let your ego turn a serious moment into childish revenge. A strong man does not need to make her feel small to feel powerful. If she comes back with real accountability, listen. If she owns her part, observe. If she shows consistent effort, allow trust to build slowly, but do not rush. Forgiveness can happen in a moment. Trust takes time. Do not confuse the two. An apology is not the whole repair. A soft message is not the whole change. Tears are not always transformations. Regret is not always readiness. Watch behavior. Does she respect your pace? Does she take responsibility without blaming you for everything? Does she communicate clearly? Does she show consistency after the emotional moment passes? Does she make effort in daylight, not only at night? That is what matters. A needy man gets drunk on words. A grounded man watches actions. Do not get drunk on words. Words are easy when someone feels lonely. Words are easy when guilt gets loud. Words are easy when another situation disappointed them. Words are easy when nostalgia hits at night. Consistency is harder. Accountability is harder. Respecting boundaries is harder. Change behavior is harder. That is what you watch. Now, if she comes back with confusion, step back. If she says, I miss you, but I do not know what I want, do not become her emotional waiting room. If she says, I care, but I am not ready. Do not give full access to uncertainty. If she reaches out at night and disappears in the morning, do not chase. If she wants comfort without responsibility, step back. If she says she regrets it but still cannot communicate clearly, step back. A man with self-respect does not build his peace on maybe can have space, maybe can have observation, maybe does not get your whole heart. That is how you protect yourself. Now, if she never comes back, you still win if you become the man this process is creating. This is the part many men avoid because they want the story to end with her return. They want the message. They want the apology. They want proof that silence worked. They want the moment where she says, I was wrong. Maybe that happens. Maybe it does not. But you cannot build your life around maybe. The highest proof is not her return. The highest proof is your peace. Can you sleep without her reply? Can you train without needing her to notice? Can you work without checking your phone every 10 minutes? Can you stop asking about her? Can you feel sadness without turning it into begging? Can you remember her without reopening the wound? Can you love deeply without losing your frame? That is success because a man who can do that is no longer easy to break. He is harder to manipulate, harder to pull into chaos, harder to make insecure, harder to treat like an option, harder to replace with temporary attention. That man is attractive because he is not desperate for attraction. He has direction. And direction is one of the strongest things a man can have. A man with direction does not orbit around a woman's uncertainty. He has things to build. He has a body to strengthen. He has money to earn. He has skills to sharpen. He has faith to deepen. He has standards to protect. He has a future that does not pause because one person became unclear. That is real masculine power, not forcing her to miss you, not making her regret, not playing games. Becoming the man who no longer has to beg anyone to see his worth. Now, ask yourself the question that cuts through fantasy. Do you want her back because she is good for your peace? Or do you want her back because being chosen again would heal the wound of rejection? Do you miss her character? Or do you miss the version of yourself you felt like when she wanted you? Do you want a healthy relationship? Or do you want proof that you were enough? These questions matter because sometimes a man does not want the woman back. He wants his ego repaired. He wants the silence to end. He wants the rejection reversed. He wants one message to prove he still matters, but that is not healing. That is still being controlled by the wound. Real healing is when you no longer need her return to feel valuable. Real healing is when you no longer need her regret to respect yourself. Real healing is when you can say, if she comes back with clarity and respect, I will listen. If she does not, I will keep walking. That is freedom. And freedom is stronger than any guarantee. Freedom is not checking. Freedom is not waiting. Freedom is not performing. Freedom is not making your healing depend on her reaction. Freedom is when you choose yourself so consistently that her absence no longer destroys your identity. That is the man you are becoming. Now, maybe you wonder how a woman remembers a man after silence. She remembers his reaction. She remembers if he begged. She remembers if he attacked. She remembers if he insulted her. She remembers if he tried to make her jealous. She remembers if he posted emotional things for attention. She remembers if he kept chasing after. She chose distance, but she also remembers if he stayed calm. She remembers if he did not fold. She remembers if he did not become bitter. She remembers if he gave her space and returned to his life. She remembers the man who did not let heartbreak turn him into a man without dignity. That does not guarantee her return, but it guarantees your self respect, and that matters more because whether she returns or not, you have to live with yourself. You have to remember how you handled the pain. You have to remember whether you begged. You have to remember whether you lost control. You have to remember whether you kept your word. You have to remember whether you became stronger or smaller. Do not choose actions that make your future self ashamed. Choose actions that make your future self say, I was hurting, but I handled it like a man. That memory will build you. Now, there is one more thing you need to hear. Silence is not supposed to turn you into stone. You do not need to hate her. You do not need to pretend she meant nothing. You do not need to become cold and cruel. You do not need to turn every woman into the enemy because one connection hurt you. A mature man learns the lesson without poisoning his heart. He says, I will not chase confusion again. He does not say, I will never care again. He says, I will protect my peace. He does not say, all women are the same. He says, I will choose better, move slower, and respect myself more. That is growth. Do not let heartbreak make you smaller. Let it make you wiser. You can still love deeply. You can still be loyal. You can still be warm. You can still care. But now your love needs boundaries. Your loyalty needs standards. Your warmth needs discernment. Your care needs self respect, because love without self respect becomes suffering. And suffering is not proof of love. Sometimes it is proof that you stayed too long in a place where you were no longer being met. So tonight, when your mind tells you to check if she misses you, do not check. When your ego wants proof that she regrets it, do not search for proof. When your heart wants to send one small message, do not send from panic. When loneliness tells you to reopen a door that hurt you, breathe. Put the phone down, stand up, drink water, walk, train, pray, work, sleep, build. Do one thing that makes tomorrow better, because discipline is how a man tells heartbreak, you can hurt me, but you cannot lead me. That is the man she did not expect, not the man who begged, not the man who folded, not the man who stayed silent only to wait, the man who hurt but stayed composed, the man who cared but did not abandon himself, the man who wanted her but did not make her return the measure of his worth. The man who turned silence into strength, pain into standards, and absence into direction, that man is hard to manipulate. That man is hard to replace. That man is free. So remember this, no one can honestly guarantee that she will return. But you can guarantee that you will return to yourself if you stop chasing, stop checking, stop begging, stop waiting, and start rebuilding. You can guarantee that your body gets stronger. You can guarantee that your routine gets cleaner.
Mm.
You can guarantee that your discipline gets sharper. You can guarantee that your emotional control improves. You can guarantee that your standards become stronger. You can guarantee that you stop making one woman's silence louder than your purpose. And if she comes back, you will not meet her as the broken man she left. You will meet her as a grounded man who knows his worth. If she comes back with clarity, you listen. If she comes back with accountability, you observe. If she comes back with consistency, you move slowly. If she comes back with confusion, you step back. If she never comes back, you keep walking. Because the deepest truth is this: the goal is not to make her return and beg. The goal is to become a man who no longer begs for anyone to return. And in the next video, you will learn the quiet signs her comeback is real, and the warning signs she only returned to see if the old version of you is still waiting.